What is going on, guys? Blink here, back with a new guide. So in this guide, we'll be explaining a few ways of improving your building and ways of stopping pressure from two different people. Also, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as opposed to Amazon gift card code in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to this guide. So, in this first situation, I was healing up because I eliminated an opponent, and what ended up happening was another player came by and already built onto the high ground. So now he's got the advantage, and now I have to grab it back. So I want to give you guys a tip on another way of grabbing the high ground back. Instead of building stairs going up, you can make yourself an elevator and go directly up. There is cover right behind me, so instead of me building stairs outwards exposing myself, I build directly up with walls and stairs. If you have the material mess blocking you from your opponent, then use it as cover to build up. As you guys can see, I haven't moved much at all. I've just been building up without needing to build outwards. Now, I did mess up at the top because I forgot to place a floor down, that way I can jump on my stairs. I was already pretty high up, so I built stairs towards my opponent. My opponent never noticed the build up until it was too late, and even then, he still could have tried to counter build me, but he just sat there. He ended up running away and not shooting back, which was a simple elimination from there. So, just a good trick to utilize. This can also be used when your opponent's almost directly above you if your wall is blocking him from shooting you. Now, I utilize this with cover, just like I've shown in this example, or if I want to build up fast with support directly under me. So, if you're not using this method of building, then start slowly adding it into your playstyle. It's just more ways you can learn to build for that high ground. So, I've been getting questions about how to play out situations where you get shot on the back while fighting an opponent. So, I'll show you this example here. I started to engage onto this first opponent and got shot on the back by another player. Now, what you have to do is choose one of the opponents to fight and commit to one fight. Now, say you hit one of the opponents down to pretty low HP, then depending on how far you are from that opponent, you either fight him or fight the other player. If the player with low HP is super close, then you'll need to finish him off quickly before the next player gets close. Now, if you're kinda at a medium distance like I was, then you can leave him and let him heal as you fight off this new opponent. This allows you to fight off a 1v1 as your previous opponent is either healing or just shooting back. Now, I never put any damage onto this first player, so he did start shooting back. And all you have to do is place walls in both directions as you place stairs down towards your opponent you're pushing. I had to finish this player off quickly before my first opponent shows up. So I do just that and take a rocket to the face in the process, as I just felt like I was going to finish him off a little quicker with one of those shotgun shots. I gotta play that a little safer next time. Now, I quickly take a slurp and get right back up to the high ground as soon as possible. You don't want to zone out looting and get shot from above. I see it happen to so many players. Grab the meds and get right back up to the top to heal. Focus on figuring out where that first opponent is first. So, as I build up to the high ground, the first player does end up pushing. Everything works out perfectly. Now, I've got the high ground and I end up getting the kill. So, the key to these situations where you're fighting multiple opponents is to choose one and eliminate him as quickly as you can. That way you don't get shot from behind as you fight. Alright, here's one more example incorporating a few of the things we talked about. Now, I get pushed as I'm fighting this player. I can kind of see a player in the distance as I'm fighting, so I knew to build right after eliminating this opponent. If you notice something that seems off in the distance, then make sure you build first, then confirm what it was. I know that's just an open field, so it did seem off. As this opponent pushed me, the building saved me from taking any damage. This player got pretty close, but I utilized the elevator method of building to try to get above him. But I did mess up the jump again, so I wasn't able to continue it. I built around my materials to avoid getting stuck. Now, this player kept getting above me almost every time. So, what you want to do is build a way with a few floors or stairs and instantly place those walls where you previously saw your opponent. That's the crucial step to not take any damage when having a build off. A lot of players will do everything right, but they forget to protect their back when they try taking the high ground. It results in them having low HP by the time they take the high ground. So, if you have your back turned towards your opponent, then make sure you're flicking back to place those walls behind you. Now, I ended up using the stair edit method to get a shot off. When I know my opponent's right under my stairs, I'll usually edit my stairs to drop right in behind him and try getting a hit off. I do get a shot onto him and continue building. Now, remember, this method of putting on some damage is risky, as you can potentially lose out on the high ground. So make sure you're confident in getting it back when doing it. I place those walls behind me once again as I have my back turned to my opponent. Now, he ends up dropping me onto his platform and we fight it out with shotguns. So I always tell you guys to try to place pressure as soon as you can get that high ground. Now, this isn't always possible, especially if your opponent can build just as well. You'll basically be looping around higher and higher, which is why you want to add those stair edit shots whenever you can. So the two most important things to take from this example is to make sure you're building right after a fight. If you see someone in the distance, you can confirm whatever it was after having some cover. And lastly, add those walls in behind you if your back is turned towards your opponent. Save some of that HP. So I've also been getting questions players getting killed holding the high ground as they're peeking out to shoot. Now, there's one main trick you should be doing when peeking from the high ground with the shotgun. If your opponent's directly below you, then use that right side peeking angle when coming out to shoot. To shorten what this means is make sure your opponent's on the right side of your crosshair, and I've mentioned about this peeking angle many times. As you come out to peek, you want to peek out slightly with a flick. As you flick, you get right back into cover. This keeps the least amount of your character model exposed to your opponent. I'll show you one more quick example of me repeating the same method. I built up onto this player and once again, add that flick peek as he's on the right side of my screen. You'll usually be able to do this without taking damage. Now, don't expect to always not take damage, but this method of peeking will help. Now, say if it's not really a build battle, then if you have the option to peek from the right side of your materials, then do it. This lets me peek out with that right side peeking angle without turning my body like I did in the last two clips. Now, one last tip I want to quickly explain. This can save you if you ever have issues building in certain areas. A lot of people should know this, but this can help the ones that don't. So whenever you try building a wall on top of a house, sometimes it won't build. So what I recommend you do is add a floor before you try building the wall. You can basically add a floor anywhere on top of the house. It seems like it's floating, but it's actually connected to part of the house. After adding that floor, you can build anything you need right over top of your floor. This also happens on the edge of mountains as there's no connection point. It seems straightforward, but I see a lot of players get shot and try to build walls in spots where you can't because there's just no connection. They expect it to touch the edge of the mountain, but that usually doesn't happen. So if you know you're around an edge or on a house roof, then make sure you get used to placing a floor down before trying to place a wall. It will save you more times than it will kill you. Well guys, that's it for this guide. Hopefully I've helped some people out, and a like and a sub will be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.